Hello and welcome back to the Infinite Franchisee Show. I am extraordinarily excited for today's guest. She is one of my closest friends, and she's such a light and inspiration on the world that I had to wear some sparkles to celebrate the fact that she is with us today. Her name is Amber Duggar, and she is the founder of Profit for Keeps, a holistic wealth and profit management. I don't know. We're going to ask her. Let's see. All right. I know I messed that up. What was it? Holistic
wealth and cash flow coach.
Thank you. Yes, that was the most important part. Holistic wealth and cash flow coach. Yes, baby. Let's have some more cash flow. That's what we all need. Okay. So we are going to have an amazing conversation today, helping you really kind of dive in. You are our listeners, dive in to the wealth and cash flow piece of your business. So hi, Amber. Why don't you give us a little bit, tell everyone your lifestyle, because I love how you're just out there in New Mexico, one with nature.
My lifestyle. Well, I love being outside. I love the sunshine in the morning. I really believe that when we can get sun in before 10, it's a good day. So I found many years ago that living in Virginia, which is where I was for most of my adult life, I had moved there when I was in high school. It was a temporary move, supposedly, from New Mexico, and we ended up staying there. I just always crave coming back to New Mexico. So I love being here, and I'm just so grateful to be here with you, April. And for everyone listening, I'm just really looking forward to having this amazing conversation, because you all have courage. You have courage to have clicked on this podcast link and to say, oh, I want to actually learn about this, because I know that it is such a evoking topic. It can be very emotional. It can be very like, oh, I'd rather do laundry, or like I've heard people say, honestly, like a 3-time cancer survivor, that she would rather battle cancer again than look at her money. So this is like going to be a conversation that you will leave. And my desire for you is for you to leave just feeling like, oh my gosh, like there's actually some things I could be implementing. And this actually is not that scary of a topic, and it's approachable. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yay. All right. So let's just get to the nuts and bolts of it so we can give everyone a lot of value. What are some of the things, because let's first of all clarify to everyone, you work with business owners for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And that's our audience. And what are some of the things that you see business owners, when they first come to you, what are the mistakes that they're making? And are those mistakes more tactical or more mindset?
Well, I think it can be a combination of both. But honestly, one of the biggest things is that the financial and educational industry has failed us. We have not been taught any of this. So a lot of times it's just truly from not knowing that it is even something that we want to be focusing on, which is why I say cash flow coach and not money coach or not finance coach, because I'm a master level profit first professional. And in that, they're really focusing just on cash flow. And I have branched out into really being more holistic and looking at cash flow from both a personal and a business perspective. Because if your personal cash flow isn't dialed in, then you're sabotaging the profitability of your business typically. So the mistakes that I see are truly just not recognizing. Well, it's not a mistake, right? It's just like not knowing that it's out there, that it's something that you can focus on. So the main things that we think of when it comes to money, like services, is having a bookkeeper, which is super important, because having a bookkeeper allows you to stay organized. It allows you to really make sure that your accountant can take all that information in a format that really makes sense to the accountant to figure out how much you owe in taxes. And so the accountant is really, his or her goal is to focus on making sure that the tax code, that they're up to date on the always changing, very complicated tax code, and taking that information from the bookkeeper. But all of this is looking backwards. Very little of it is looking forwards. The tax accountant will take data historically and then figure out, okay, this is how much you need to do for estimated taxes for the next year. But other than that, it's pretty much looking backwards. But as business owners, we're visionaries, we're dreamers, we're looking to really create a beautiful life for ourselves. So when you mentioned my lifestyle earlier, that's a big deal for all of us, right? Like being able to align our life with what it is that we really care about. And so when you think about bookkeeping, that's definitely not it. When you think about taxes, that's definitely not it. So what the heck is it? How can we start paying ourselves consistently when we have variable income? How can we make sure that we have enough money to pay our taxes? And how can we ensure that we have cash for the things that matter most to us? Like that amazing camp for the summer that your child is like dying to go to. Or maybe it's like treating your mother to a trip to Paris because she's never been to Europe. There are so many things that we can do with the cash flow in our business while still ensuring that we're running an impactful, profitable business. And that's where cash flow comes in.
Well, you're speaking our language here because you know that this is really what we strive to bring here at Ask April Porter. What our whole goal for business owners is that we aren't just working to work, which I find that business owners fall into that trap many times because business ownership is overwhelming and there's so much to do that before we know it, we're doing and doing and doing. And if we really ask ourselves, what are we doing this for? Oh, we have this vague idea of kind of somewhere we want to ultimately get to and that we believe we can get to, but we haven't dialed in even that desire. That what does that look like? What is that lifestyle of why I'm working? And without that vision and without that clarity as to why you've taken on all this risk, why you've taken on all the responsibility and obligation that a business owner has, what we do is we end up working to work instead of working to live.
Could not agree more.
so that's one of the reasons we're so on the same page and have such amazing conversations off the air. We're only going to be able to give them a snippet of our genius here right now.
But you're speaking to a very valid point, which is a lot of times we have this business that is a cash eating monster. It is really giving us anxiety at night. We're waking up sometimes middle of the night, not able to sleep just because our heart's pounding and it's something that, oh my gosh, I didn't do this. What's going to happen? Or how are we going to make it for next month? Like there's all these internal thoughts. And a lot of times we think we're the only one thinking those thoughts because not only are we not educated on this, but then we also have a society, and this is not just here in the United States, but worldwide, of really, it's taboo to speak about money. It has been. And I want to make that really clear. It has been. I don't believe it is taboo anymore. And I am on a mission to break that taboo down and to eradicate financial anxiety and overwhelm because it's this elusive thing that, one, we don't really know much about because we weren't taught about it. So that makes it already an uncomfortable thing. And then on top of it, oh, well, you're not supposed to talk about it either. So when we don't talk about it, then it becomes even more of an elusive thing. And then who the heck wants to be spending time feeling super, super uncomfortable and like they don't know what they're talking about? Not too many people. So it's really about looking at how can the business serve me? How can I truly use this as a resource to allow me to live my best life for myself and those around me, for my clients? How can we have a win for everyone involved? That is a completely different experience. It's then allowing your business revenue to be driven by your impact and your dreams. And that is when everything starts to fall into place and you can really step back into enjoying what you know initially you had an interest in doing to begin with. We don't typically pick a business that we don't love unless we're looking at it from a standpoint of, well, this I know will make me money. Well, and if you don't love it, then that's another question for yourself. You know, is this something that I could love? Or is this something that I actually need to say, you know what, maybe step aside and look at what is it that's really going to bring your heart joy? And I call this profit for joy. And we even trademarked it because it's such a core foundation of everything else. You don't learn Excel spreadsheets just for fun. You definitely don't look at cash flow and look at budgeting for fun. you want to make sure that your reason and the foundation behind it is so solid and personal to you and personal to those you care about and those you love and those that you're going to be working with, to allow your business to really start to expand from that core why. And that's when everything starts to click into place, in my experience.
I couldn't agree more. And just as a note that popped into my head as you were talking about, usually, and I would agree, usually our first business we pick because we're extraordinarily passionate about the product or the service and the solution that it provides to people. We understand the struggle, the challenges, the problem that our potential customers have, and we really know we can make a difference, and we're so driven to make that difference.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't, well, like for someone like myself, that was my first business. And I learned so much in that first business that my passion switched. And my passion then became, how do I empower others to build businesses and lifestyles, right? So my customer went from B2C, what is often referred to as B2C in this world, to B2B. Like, I know that we can make a bigger impact on the world instead of helping one community member at a time. If I help a business owner elevate to where they are living in a lifestyle, in a swag lifestyle, sanity, wealth, and gratitude, which if they're living in a swag lifestyle, spoiler alert, you've also created profit for joy. That's all. It's all the same thing. But if we do that, then guess what? The employees of that business owner are extraordinarily well taken care of. Their families feel an amazing impact. Their children feel an amazing impact. The customers of those businesses also get the solution to their problems. Their lives are changed for the better. Their families' lives are changed for the better. Their neighbors' lives are changed for the better. And we all know that whether or not it's talked about in the media or through politics, business owners are actually the most influential people in communities. So we hear about these influencers all the time on Instagram and social media and all of that. But when push comes to shove, your neighbors, your community, whether they take a risk on something or invest in something or follow a fashion trend, if they see a local friend, neighbor, someone who's supporting their community doing it, they're more likely to follow in that person's footsteps than the stranger on Instagram who just, peppers them with pictures. So it's so true. And so there is no better gift you can give to the world and to that impact that you're trying to make as a business owner than to truly elevate yourself to live the life of joy that you aspire to. So those are just my random thoughts on what you had to say there.
Yeah, I could not agree more. So I think for everyone listening, a lot of times when we're hearing about this for the first time, it's like, well, then what the heck can I do to make sure that I'm learning more about cash flow management? What the heck is cash flow management? Well, a lot of times we look at money from such a complicated angle because that's how we've been taught it. And for the longest time, money was a tangible thing. So I could hand you money and you could give me something back. But we have since evolved into mostly digital accounts. And so digital accounts have then really given us this boundary or like even a login or a barrier to our money, first of all, so we don't see it in front of us. And then it can be elusive because we can start using, like cards or our magic wands here, and then we're no longer giving something up to receive something. So psychologically, that can also change how we're spending. So I like to think of it as going back to a cash-based system where cash comes in and then we want to think, okay, how do I want to allocate this cash? How do I want to use this cash? How do I want to give purpose to this cash? And when you have a clear idea of how much money you want to be making in your business based on your own personal needs, your own business needs, and making sure your business model aligns to that. The next step is then saying, okay, how can I organize my cash when it comes in so that I'm directly allocating money to pay myself, and I'm directly allocating money for my business expenses, and I'm putting aside money for taxes that I know I'm going to owe because I'm a profitable business. And then on top of that, you still want to have money in the bank. So allocating a certain portion directly for profit, for intentional profit. And that's a big thing with cash flow management. It's using different formulas. So the only formula I'll mention today on this conversation is profit. The way that it's traditionally defined is sales minus expenses. Whatever's left over is profit. But you've heard that term, as a kid, like pay yourself first. Well, we want to pay our business first too. So if we take sales minus profit and actually intentionally take a certain portion off the top of every deposit that comes in, we then are actively putting aside money for intentional profit. And we can do the same thing with owner's pay and with taxes. And when people hear this concept, the first thing they say is, well, that's great, except what am I going to actually have to do if I don't have enough money sitting in the business expenses pile? Like, how do I make that work? Am I going to just take from these other piles? And that's where I believe that the most important thing is to first figure out what is the top end goal so that you do always have enough money in the business expenses, so that you do have enough money in your personal account. And that is the key, I believe, to really starting to see everything start to click into place.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, I've actually worked with Amber. I've experienced the way that she teaches this and the way that, and the whole formula and the whole methodology to it. And it's fantastic. But it is a process. It's not okay, flip the switch. I start paying myself profit first today, and I can't pay my expenses. And now I'm on this downward spiral of complete despair and anxiety. And because that's just a recipe to go right back to the way we were doing things before, right? It's a process of really and I think it's important because when we talk in these 20-minute podcasts, a lot of times we give you guys a great snippet, but I don't want anyone to believe that snippet is the whole answer. It is a process that you need to go through in order to reach your ultimate goals. And every single person listening is absolutely capable of it. Doesn't have to be a complicated process or like hard or difficult, or I'm going to have to work now. I'm already working 60 hours a week. And now if I pay myself, I'm going to have to get rid of some of my employees and shorten their hours so I can work 80 hours a week so I can save that payroll, because it's got to go into the profit pile first. And so you're sacrificing your time to increase your profit. Remember, in swag, the and is significant. And what it means is you get to have sanity, wealth, and gratitude. You do not have to sacrifice your sanity for wealth. You do not have to sacrifice your wealth for sanity. You get to have all three. And so that, again, requires a process. You're going to have to make some changes to some of the things you're doing tactically, but also to the ways that you're thinking about and communicating about money.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things where with anything, if we don't like the way that something is, we can't do the same thing and expect the same results. So there is always going to be change, because that's really the only constant. And so I think that the biggest thing that you can take away hopefully from this conversation is that money has been talked about in very complicated ways to allow those that are talking about it to maintain a really big ego. I'm just going to say it. So when you are able to actually receive the information in a simple way that is actually all it is, it's just organizing your money. Like literally, if we had $100 of cash in front of us, not only would we know exactly how much money we have, we'd know what purchasing power we have because we have the $100 in front of us. And then we could easily organize it into different piles to say, okay, this is for child 1, this is for child 2, this is for child 3. For example, if you were doling out allowance or something, that's how simple cash flow can be. And it's when we start to layer on all of these very complicated things that we just end up thinking, oh, I can't understand this. I need to delegate it to an expert. And I can tell you that the biggest embezzlement cases has been from business owners that believe that they just don't either have time to look at it. This is not for me. This is not a visionary type, exercise, or they just simply don't understand the numbers. So I do encourage everyone to continue to educate yourself on this concept, because it will help you not only understand how to ensure that you're not getting embezzled, but also so that you can really build a business that is helping everyone and that you feel really good and it's not stressing you out all the time. And yeah, it's not an overnight process, but it is something that can be implemented in, over a course of a few months, and it can make a huge difference.
100%, 100%. And this again is an example of the concept of you right now are investing in yourself and your business. You're always investing in yourself and your business. Mm-hmm. And what you need to ask yourself is, what type of investment am I making? Am I investing in maintaining what I currently am doing, maintaining the results that I'm getting? Or am I investing in the life that I want? Am I investing in growing into the business owner that I want to be? Because your business can only grow as fast as you grow as a person. So that's part of the key of this situation. We're talking about money and we're talking about tactical ways to look at money. But again, going back to the beginning, where the conversations that we've always had or not had around money are really shaping your actions around money. And so many of us just want to put our head in the sand because it is overwhelming and it is discouraging sometimes when you own a business and you're not paying yourself and you believe that there is no other money, and that's your belief today. But have you really looked at it? Have you really looked at it? Have you really looked at it with somebody who can simplify these things to say, oh, wow, I never looked at it that way, or that's not how I was thinking about allocating my money. And now that I see that I can make a change. So there is hope. There is hope. There are people like Amber. Of course, Amber's my favorite, but there are people like Amber who are trying to make this, who are making this easy for business owners to understand and to implement. And I think it's so important, Amber, that you brought up the fact that the people who are having conversations around the money keep it complicated. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's just ego. That's also wealth. Right? The wealthy stay wealthy in part because they know things and look at things differently. They have a different experience growing up with money. The conversations around money are different. So they're getting a different education.
Yes. Except I would say that the wealthy, let's redefine wealth. Is wealth really all about making sure you don't lose your money? So those conversations a lot of times are actually even more stressful than ones without money, because they're always concerned about losing it and
That's
holding
true.
on to it. And so I think that you're absolutely right in that it's not just ego. It can be education. It can be like generational wealth, and they know how to keep it in that way. But I actually don't strive for that personally. And I may be one of the only money coaches that doesn't strive for that generational wealth, because I think it's actually a disservice to the future generations. I think that when we look at it from a perspective of, let's be generous, let's be open, let's be in a place where we know we will always have what we need, because we're in this mindset of not holding on to anything and really starting to evoke that karmic cycle of money. I think that a lot of times the people that we perceive as having it all are the ones that are suffering the most. But I do agree. It's not just ego. I think also it's just like repetition of what we've learned, So like, that story about the roast, and like everyone's always cutting off the ends, and they go and they ask the grandmother, and she's like, oh, it's just because my tray wasn't big enough. I had to cut off the ends of the roast. They're like, oh, maybe we don't need to do that anymore. And I think it's the same with this. Like, do we really need to keep making it complicated? Or can we look at this and approach this from a place where everyone benefits. And I think it's really replacing fear with, love and with expansion and saying, okay, yeah, I can be wealthy and I don't need millions and millions and millions sitting in a bank stagnant and not doing anything. Like we can have an environment where we have money to fall back on and we have money coming in, and it can be in this really beautiful place where it's not needing to just be the concern always that we're going to lose it.
Right. It's so awesome. I mean, we could talk about this, for hours and days, and of course we would get off on other tangents as well. But I really want to thank you for spending this time with us. And for those of you that want to continue the conversation, we are so excited. Amber will be at the SWAG conference, which is taking place in just a couple weeks now. It's April 18th is our welcome reception. We get down to the good stuff on April 19th and 20th. And then there's that optional hands-on workshop where we are going to be actually creating, implementing and putting things into your business so that you take huge leaps forward with the assistance of our experts like Amber. So we would love to have you join us and learn the actual steps and formulas and tactics and strategies that we're sharing in all kinds of topics, but to meet Amber in person too and learn more about profit for keeps and profit for joy. So thank you so much, Amber.
Thank you, April. Thank you for having me. And thank you, everyone listening, for your time. And I look forward to meeting you at the conference.
Awesome. If you want to grab your swag ticket, go ahead and go to askaprilporter.com, click on the swag conference, and we'll see you there. My name is April Porter. Welcome. We are changing the franchising industry. Show up every day, authentically as yourself, unapologetically to infinite success.